Welcome into WagerTalk TV. I am Drew Martin, joined by Robbie Vino and Jeff from Oskine Sports, both at WagerTalk.com. We're talking SEC football here on Saturday. We got the Florida Gators hosting the LSU Tigers. This one in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, the Swamp, Gainesville, Florida, with the Florida Gators minus 23-point home favorites here, Robbie. We got a total of 68. You interested in getting involved here with the Bayou Bengals and Florida Gators?
Well, I'll tell you what, Drew, if you're looking to lay 23 with Florida, here's your concern. Their last three games are against Tennessee, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. They score 31, 34, and 38. Now, if you're going to try and cover 23 with a high of 38, that means you got to hold LSU to less than 16 points. That's pretty difficult. It's been difficult for Florida all season long, probably a little bit difficult against LSU. So the offense for the Florida Gators, I don't know whether, one game they played without Kyle Pitts, but the last two games the tight end's been back and he's been good. But they just seem to be decreasing in point production, like I mentioned, against three teams that rank in the bottom of the SEC in total offense. When you're looking at point differential in those games, they win by 12 against Tennessee, a freshman quarterback in his very first start. They win by 24. They win by 21. So again, it's tough to lay this type of points with Florida, these type of points with Florida, the way they're going right now offensively. 5 of their 9 games this year, they've hit a high of 38. So 38, again, it's not a big number when you're laying 23. In 6 of their 9 games, 41 or less. The question you ask yourself at that point, Drew, is can LSU get to 20? And I would have to think that they can. However, since Miles Brennan, the number one quarterback of this team, has gone down, first game they put up 52 against South Carolina. All things look great with TJ Finley. They come back against Auburn. Made you happy, Drew, because they only scored 11. Auburn, probably their best offensive effort of the season in that game, just became a snowball effect. Give up 48. They scored 27 against Arkansas, 7 against A&M, 17 against Alabama. You can see how downhill the point production has gone for LSU over those last 4 games. So, it becomes one of those things. Which side of the fence are you on here with these two teams? I'll talk about one of my favorite guys in NCAA football now, Bo Pelini. Bo Pelini, he's made a lot of teams look real good offensively this year, better than real good. According to head coach Ed Ogeron, it's been a work in progress, right? What he's trying to tell you here, as I read the quotes, Pelini's a little bit pig-headed, set in his ways. The defense couldn't understand what the hell he was talking about, missed assignments all over the field. So everybody had to meet in the middle. They simplified the defense. They got into a 3-week stretch where they had no games, and they simplified it again. All right? They come out of that stretch. I'll give you these numbers because, to me, these were eye-opening. They come out of the stretch. They play Arkansas. First game with a defense that's now been simplified twice. They hold Arkansas to 14 first downs. They hold Arkansas to 0 for 10 on on third down conversions. 0 for 10. And they hold a 91 to 58 total play advantage. They hold the ball for 41 minutes and 43 seconds. All dominant numbers for LSU. However, as good as only 14 first downs sound, as good as 0 for 10 on third down conversions sound, they got outgained in that game. Arkansas gains 443 yards on 58 plays in only 18 minutes of possession. Felipe Franks goes wild, throws for 339. That's Bo Pelini at his best. In this game, guys, LSU's had trouble. Once again, they've had trouble with almost everything defensively. Specifically, you saw against Alabama, if you can do both things well, you're going to murder them 55-17. But if you can throw the football well, you can really do some damage to this LSU squad. It's been proven week in and week out. I don't know that Bo Pelini will make too many adjustments here. And really, guys, I don't know that they can make, whether you play man, whether you play press man, whether you play zone. I don't know that it makes a difference against Kyle Trask and Florida. Trask is saying all the right things. Now that Florida's in the SEC championship game, you might look for a letdown here. Let's take 23 because Florida's more interested in playing Alabama than they are this game. Trask is saying the right things, but that doesn't mean that there might not be a letdown here. He's still shooting for the Heisman. Mac Jones lit this team up last week. That's his main competitor here. I think they're both going to score, Drew, but I think 68 might be a hair bit high. I think this game could fall in the vicinity of 44-24. For me, I think I'd be on LSU plus the 23. The way Florida's played offense the last 3 weeks concerns me, so I think I would take 23 points with LSU.
Yeah, good stuff there, Robbie. And Jeff, coming to you, I mean, like Robbie said, Florida coming into this stretch of the last 3 games, they had Trash going for the Heisman, style points somewhat mattering here towards the Gators down the stretch. I was thinking they would be an over team, looking to bet on them. And sure enough, I lost a unit or two doing that because they haven't been hitting these overs. The offense really hasn't been able to put up, the huge numbers like many would have thought they would. So it's kind of coming into this one, LSU, 3 of their last 4 falling under the total. I almost wish, think here, maybe it's time to kind of turn the tires on the under because this is a somewhat high total, especially because both teams are trending towards the under. Anything on the total, or if not, sidewise here, Jeff?
Yeah, I think Rob made some excellent points earlier on this game, but what I want to know is what the heck did Bo Pelini do to Rob? I mean, boy, oh boy, was that. And I agree with Rob. So if there's ever a time that Florida's offense is going to get on track here, it's going to be against this LSU defense and Bo Pelini. But if you look at the Tigers, well, let's start with Florida. As Rob was alluding to earlier, I mean, their offense has been really uninspired lately. I mean, they're coming off a 31-19 win over Tennessee, but only 14% rushing success rate. They can't run the ball. Only 11% of their plays graded as explosive last week against Tennessee. So that's a real concern of mine. Now, if you look at LSU, they're a complete dumpster fire. You see what's happening in the locker room and on the field. Both not very good. They're off a 55-17 loss to Alabama. They were outgained by nearly 300 yards, Drew, in that game. Crazy. They allowed a season-high 630 yards to the Crimson Tide. Here's a stat, if you like the under in this game. LSU, their offense, they gained 1/3 of their total yards on 2 plays last week against Alabama. A 54-yard run and a 43-yard pass. I mean, that is crazy. You look at what the LSU defense did against Alabama and Bo Pelini. This is definitely a Bo Pelini special. The Crimson Tide, they averaged 12.4 yards per play and 18 yards per pass play. The game was over by halftime. Alabama only threw 10 passes in the second half. Ridiculous. You look at LSU off the field. You have a bunch of players who have opted out before the season. You have the wide receiver Jamar Chase. He opted out. Safety Kerry Vincent. He opted out. Defensive lineman Tyler Shelvin. He's opted out. And then their leading wide receiver, Terrace Marshall Jr., he opted out before the Alabama game. And now we hear that tight end Eric Gilbert is considering opting out. And I think when we did a show last week, when we recorded a show, Drew, someone mentioned that instead of opting out, we should use the term quitting. Because I think a lot of these kids are quitting on their team and on their teammates. And in LSU, they're losing players left and right, not only from COVID, but from opting out because the season has been a complete nightmare for them. You look at Florida, if Kyle Trask is going to really turn things on here, he has an opportunity against LSU defense. I just wanted to see how Trask was doing in certain situational points in the game. He has a 71% third down completion rate this season, averaging 13.1 yards per completion. I think that's the best in the nation entering this week. He has a 70% red zone completion rate. He's 40 of 57 with 21 TDs, no interceptions in the red zone. Incredible. Trask, 1.1% interception rate this year, a 2.8 sack rate this year. 85% of his passes have been deemed catchable. He has been unbelievable in certain situations, and they're the situations that matter the most in game. And he has thrown 4 TD passes in 7 games this season. It's incredible. You look at the offense for Florida, they're top 10 in the nation in overall offensive success rate, top 5 nationally in offensive finishing drives, which is also a relevant metric that I look at with teams. How well can they move the chains, but not only that, but how well can they finish those drives? They don't stall at the 40, 30, 20-yard line, but they punch it in. That's an extremely important metric. I think, if anything, you've got to lay it with the Gators here. I know they have Alabama on deck, but style points matter. I think Trask is definitely playing for something still. He's saying the right things, like Rob said, and I think LSU is done. When you have players this late in the season opting out or considering to opt out and transfer, I mean, that tells you all you need to know. You don't even have to read between the lines there. This team is done. No chemistry, no hope. I would lay it with the Gators.
He's Oskheim Sports. We also got Robbie Vino, both at WagerTalk.com. Guys, enjoy the LSU Florida game. Also, remember the scroll at the bottom there. We got coupon code Daily50. That's Daily50 at checkout at both websites. Will give you 50% off any daily package. Good at both WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com.